Good day to you all. Okay, so I am here to speak about something that has been going viral since the weekend. So, you all know that I talk about domestic abuse based on what I've been through, and I try to help other women and let my voice be heard. And for the last few weeks, I started sounding the alarm towards the church, right? And as a disclaimer, this is not to bring the church down, this is not to belittle the church. I am the church, I'm a minister, I am a lover of Jesus, I'm a part of the church. This is just to bring full awareness, to open up the eyes of the church, and to put pressure on the church to begin to take domestic violence more seriously. Why? Because it is happening from our brothers to our sisters in the church, right? It is Abuse is happening by the hands of pastors, apostles, deacons, ministers, elders, bishops, whatever the titles are that they have in the church. Women are being abused by their husbands who have these titles, and it's not right. And so the church needs to be more serious about it and not let women continue to suffer because of different beliefs that they portray, right, on the woman. So it has been going viral of this famous gospel singer. She does praise and worship as well. She's a pastor and she's also married to a pastor. Her name is, I'll tell you her name. Her name is Osinachi Wachuko. And it's very possible I pronounced the last name incorrectly because the N could be silent. But her first name is Osinachi. Okay, so you can look her up. But I will also share some clippings about her. But she's famous, and so it's all over, right? Social media. Um, so she was killed. She died because her husband, who's a pastor, stomped on her chest so much and so hard that it created damages on the inside of her body, and so she succumbed to that and died, right? And she's been enduring abuse, and she has mentioned it to a few of her people that she socialized with who are also, famous. And they have shared that she mostly says, when they say, I think you should leave or divorce him, she would say, well, my church doesn't really think that's okay. And my church said it would make them look bad and I wouldn't be recognized anymore. And just the whole fear of God also not liking divorce. And so, based on all those things, she continued to remain in it, right? Hoping that one day he'll change. But of course, that doesn't happen too often, right? So she died, and she's famous, and so it's all over, and it has created, I'm going to call it a holy anger within the church body, mostly the African church body, because of course they know her more. Um, and, they're now beginning to speak out a lot, right? Every day they're making posts. Some of the ones that I follow, some of the past African pastors that I follow on Facebook, they have been making it a duty to begin to tell women now that who are in the church that do not remain in abuse, right? God does not want that for you. Now, I'm not a famous person, right? So when I began to sound the alarm, and I've never seen any other person or minister or pastor preaching on abuse, and God allowed me to do that, right? Um, and God allowed me to also speak to the men, and I shared that video. Now, I'm not famous, so my friends and my family and acquaintances who are on my different platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you won't share that video, right? Because I'm not a famous person. But out of all the videos that I've done, I would have loved for that one to be shared, because that message needs, it should be heard. It should be heard. It's needed. And also pastors and all the ministers need to hear it, so that just maybe it may hit their heart and want to change. And it will also just might save a woman or a woman, right? And so I would have loved that to be shared. I would have loved for it to go viral. But of course, I'm not famous, so you won't share it. And it's the truth, right? It's the truth. You will share the message and the preachings of other famous pastors, but you won't share your own family, your own friend, your own acquaintance, right? Because I'm not famous. I'm not a famous person. However, despite that, this woman is famous. And so she has lost her life due to this. And because she's famous, all the other acquaintances that she has who are also famous preachers and singers and all of that, they are now beginning to do what I did a few weeks ago, to stress the point that Christian women and women in general don't stay in an abusive relationship. Don't allow the church as well, because some churches will just tell you, just go pray about it, right? And there's one African pastor who has been doing that a lot, who I follow. And he's been making it his duty. He's constantly coming on live, just stressing to women, do not stay in an abusive relationship. And you know, in their culture, in some of the African culture, you would usually, if you leave your husband or divorce your husband, you would then return back to your family home, right? To your parents' home or your mother's home or your father's home. So he was saying to them that it is better to return alive than to return in a coffin, right? It's better to return in the shame that they may feel, because marriage is really strong in their culture. So they're going to feel shame and embarrassment, because that's the way people look at them when a woman leaves their marriage. But as he said to them, it's better to leave and go home to your mother's home and start from scratch than return to her home in a coffin, which is the way this woman will be returning. And how terribly sad, right? So I am happy that even though I'm not famous, and so you won't share my videos, and even that specific video that I made when I shared that clipping to the ministers and the pastors and the bishops and the apostles, about that they should stop the abuse, you won't share it. But I'm so happy, right? Not happy about this woman's death. It is horrible. But from it, I am very happy now that all her famous acquaintances, they are sounding the alarm, and they're stressing it now, and they're making it their business now to speak about it in their church, because they are famous pastors who usually invite her to their place as well, to their church as well, to minister. So those famous pastors now, who millions of people watch, they are now speaking up now and letting women know, do not remain in an abusive situation. God hates divorce. It just simply means that God doesn't like to see a union or a marriage break up. Who does, right? No one does. But it doesn't mean that circumstances won't allow you to have to leave. And abuse is a very, very good reason to separate yourself or be divorced, right? The word says, don't be in the company of an angry man. And an abuser is a very angry man, right? Think about this man, her husband, who is a pastor, stamping in her chest like that with no care. What is happening to that man in that moment? Anger and rage, right? That's the reason why the Bible says, don't remain in the company of an angry man. The Bible also says that a man must suffer consequences. A man who is wicked, right, must suffer consequences. A man of great wrath must suffer consequences. And Amos chapter 3 verse 3 says, how can two walk unless they agree, right? How can two walk unless they agree? And so when abuse comes in the marriage, there's no more agreement there between the husband and the wife. When they went to the altar and take their vows, there was no agreement that says, I agree to be abused by you in the future in our marriage, right? There's no agreement there for that. No agreement that I agree that you can mistreat me as the marriage go on. No. So Amos chapter 3 verse 3 says, how can two walk unless they agree? Right? So God does not want that for any woman. God hates abuse. He hates it. And he's angry about it. He's not happy about how, especially the man of God, are treating their wife. He says, love your wife as Jesus Christ loved the church, right? And would lay down, which he did. He laid down his life for us, the church, right? And so that's the way a man or a husband should treat his wife. So God is very angry. He's not happy about it, that his ministers are treating their wives like this. So share this video, share my other video, which I will repost. And if you don't, hey, but I am grateful that at least from this woman's death, it is now being talked about within the church. And that was one of my biggest desire, which I'm sure God placed that desire inside of me. And now it is being spoken of in the church, within the church. And if any pastor is watching this, watching me speak right now, you need to put this in your men's ministry, right? You need to put this as a must, something that must be spoken about, that you do not mistreat your wife. This should be spoken about in the women's ministry. Let your women know that they should not remain in an abusive situation, right? Not just go pray about it. But faith without works is dead. That's the scripture you need to give to them, right? Which is to say that you have faith that God is going to see you through after you walk out and leave that abusive situation, or after you call the cops when that man physically harm you and he gets arrested, because the Bible also says that a man of wrath must suffer punishment. And thank God the husband has now been arrested, the husband of this woman that I'm speaking about, this minister. At first he wasn't arrested, but he's arrested now. And also they interviewed her children, and one of the boy, he said that, you know, there are times when they would go to church or to places, and the father, right, who's her husband, the pastor, would drive the car with the kids, leave her and have her walk home, or she has to catch a bike. So, you know, in some of the countries, just like how we have taxi cab, they sometimes use bike as a taxi. So sometimes he drives in her car, because all those cars, which is what the son was saying, that, you know, from her ministering and everything, they bless her not only with money and payments for her ministering, but they also bless her with cars. And the husband takes over the cars and drives them. And sometimes when they go out, He drives and leave her, and the kids, the poor kids, are in there waving bye-bye to their mom. And she has to walk home. Right? And he has abused her in many different ways. And now he has stamped, imagine, stamped on her chest so much. She died. So share this video. Share the other video. I'm going to share it again. It is very, very important because abuse, domestic abuse, not only in the church, it's everywhere, right? It's with every race, every culture, it's there. Some of the cultures, it's more hush-hush. They make it they're very intentional about keeping it hush in their culture, but it's everywhere. Domestic abuse towards women, right? And so share it. Share. It is needed. Domestic abuse has now become an epidemic. Yes, like a disease ramping around. My God. Yes. And it's killing, just like how COVID has been killing. Domestic abuse has been killing. Every day a woman is dying of domestic abuse. And 1 out of every 4 women are being abused. Yes, when you go to church, some of your church sisters right in there, they're being abused right now. Your pastor, she's being abused right now. Yes, so what I have spoken, what I have preached, because when I preach about it, I give scriptures because it's a tug and war, because it's not spelled out or written out word for word that if a man or if a husband abuse you, you should leave, right? It doesn't say it like that. So then it makes it hard for many Christian women. But I give scriptures to show and to prove and to point out that God does not want this for you. He does not want you to be mistreated. Any woman to be mistreated. Not at all. So we have to become serious about this, church. Yes. If you're in the church, you're a pastor, minister, hear me. This needs to come to a stop. Judgment begins in the house of the Lord. Yes, it must begin with us. Right? It must begin with us. It is terrible. It's awful. Instead of men of God, they're being monsters at home. Men of God at church, right? That's what we see. That's what they display. They're preaching, they're prophesying, they're praying. But at home, they're monsters. Roaring lions like the devil. Right? In my own experience, as it got worse, it was like I was living with Satan himself. Forget about a demon. Forget about an evil spirit. It felt like it was Satan took my keys, opened the door, and was now living in there. Okay? Yes, and that's how, even when you think about this man, how he was stamping in his wife's chest. Yes, it's the very nature of the devil. He has taken on that form. So share this video, and I'm also going to share some clippings about this minister. And in all of this, may her soul rest in peace. May her soul rest in peace. And I pray that pastors' wives, if you're watching me and you're being abused, escape the abuse. Don't let the next one be you who end up being dead. I came out alive. Thank you, Jesus. I am forever grateful because I've come face to face with anger and rage. As a matter of fact, one of the time when he was hitting me and he grabbed me in my chest and he said, "Do you know who this is? Do you know who this is? This is anger and rage." Yes, who you think that's speaking? The spirit, the demon inside, right? The demon has taken on the very nature of Satan. So he was letting me know, that spirit announcing himself, that this is anger and rage who's dealing with you right now. So any man who is abusive needs deliverance. Not just counseling. You can't counsel demons once they have been taken over like that. Once that man has been taken over. He has now put on the very nature of Satan. Narcissist. It's devilish. It's wicked. It has come to kill and to destroy. And that's what abuse is doing to women. Killing them, destroying them. Those who make it out alive, many of them are destroyed, emotionally destroyed. God has been so good to me, so awesome to me, that he just repaired me, repaired my heart, repaired my mind, right? And he's still healing me. But he has healed me. He has decided to heal me so rapidly, to start my healing process immediately as I separated, because he has a work for me to do. Yes, many, they stay broken for a long time until everything is said and done years after. My healing process began immediately as I became separated. Why? Because God has a work for me to do. And so I can't do that work unless I'm healed, right? Doesn't mean I don't have more to heal from, different traumas. But he healed me enough that I can take on the assignment that he has placed on my life. So I pray that, woman, if you're being abused, escape the abuse. Trust God. Have faith. Give him the situation and act. That man physically harm you, you call the authorities. The Bible said he must suffer punishment. Must. Or what? He'll do it again. He'll do it again. He'll do it again. Escape the abuse. Take care now.